Absolutely. Let us pray. Father God, thank you for today. Thank you for those who strive to make positive changes within our city. Jesus, help us mend broken relationships and to forgive others as you have us when we ask. Thank you for your love, mercy, and grace. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
Benell.
Present.
Gauntz.
Yes, ma'am.
Honeycutt.
Here.
Kirkpatrick.
Yes, ma'am.
Lowry.
Here.
Neal.
Here.
Norris.
Here.
Trigg.
Here.
Witcher.
Here. We have before you minutes of our last council meeting, July 11th, 2022. We have no corrections. Take a motion to approve.
Kirkpatrick.
Councilmember Patrick. Motion, I have a second. Second, Norris. Second, Councilmember Norris. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Minutes are passed. First item on the agenda is honoring retiring Odell Renfro from the airport board. He had COVID. He was supposed to have been out of quarantine last Thursday. I haven't talked to him. I expected he would be here, but he's not. I made this for his last meeting, which was on the 11th. So I'm going to read this, and I'll see that he gets it tomorrow or the next day, whenever he's out and about. This proclamation honoring Odell Renfro for his service to the City of Glasgow and the Glasgow Airport Board. To all to whom these presents shall come. Whereas Odell Renfro is being honored by the grateful citizens of Glasgow, Kentucky, on the occasion of his retirement from the Glasgow Airport Board. And whereas Glasgow would like to honor his service to Glasgow by presenting him with this proclamation. And whereas Odell has contributed so much to the Glasgow Municipal Airport aviation, having served as a board member, vice chairman, and chairman. And whereas his construction background has been beneficial, he has a talent to be able to look at engineering drawings and explain them in layman's terms so that other board members can understand them. This talent will be greatly missed. And now, therefore, I, Harold Armstrong, Mayor of the City of Glasgow, and the Glasgow City Council, Terry Benell, Patrick Gauntz, Wendell Honeycutt, Monica Patrick, Chastity Lowry, James Happy Neal, Freddie Norris, Joe Trigg, and Marlon Witcher do hereby deem it an honor and pleasure to extend this proclamation to Odell Renfro on the occasion of his retirement and 14 years of voluntary service from the Glasgow Airport Board as a member, and with sincere congratulations and best wishes for many more productive years. And in witness wherefore, I do hereto set my hand and cause the seal of Glasgow, City of Glasgow, to be affixed this 11th day of July 2022. And I'll present that to him as soon as I can get with him.
Hey, Dave, could we just take I meant to say something before, and Philip Whiteside passed today. Would it be out of way?
We'll acknowledge it if you want to. I didn't know it.
Yeah, I just heard it just a while ago, but I just know he's been around. Maybe a minute.
We'll get down there before the announcement, and you can
Okay.
acknowledge it, and we'll all give a moment of silence to the family. Next item is Jesse Crabtree to speak to the council about the celebration plans for Glasgow turning 225 years old in 2023. Jesse, if you want to come up to the microphone.
Thank you for having me tonight. Short notice. I am part of a committee that's just been formed to organize a big celebration when Barron County turns 225 years old next year. We've met 3 times. Our 4th meeting's tomorrow. We'd love to have each one of you here to help. We need a great big committee to pull this off, to make it really big. If you'll notice the pictures I gave you, especially the top one of the parade here in downtown Glasgow, there were so many people in town that the carts and horses and buggies could barely get through. According to research that I've been doing, there's about 20,000 people in town. That was in 1948, when we were 150 years old. And then there's been other celebrations in Barron County. There's been the birthday of America in 1976, and then there was some bicentennial stuff done, I guess, 25 years ago. I'm not sure what all was done then, but as I've gotten older and have more time, I'm really enjoying looking and reading about local history. It's just so interesting, and the hard times that our forefathers had. That being said, our committee is young. It's going to be a temporary committee. When the event's over, we'll disband. But we're in the process of electing officers and setting a date. At the last meeting, the committee decided to set a date. Now, the committee's made up of, there's been almost 30 people at the 3 meetings, another 20 or 30 that say, put me on the committee, but they haven't been able to come to a meeting yet, so that's a good sign. But they have set a date. There's some that I didn't feel real comfortable with until I checked with you all. Here's why. Barron County will be 225 years old in December of 2023. Okay? Glasgow will be 225 years old in May of 2024. So it's back to back. Just a few months between them. When we do Barron County, we want to include the whole entire county. I'm talking Park City, Cave City, Highsville, Austin, Tracy, all of them, 88, Slick Rock, everything that is part of Barron County. And so we were kind of puzzled on what to do. And after much talk, they thought it would be best to start a celebration on Labor Day weekend next year, 2023, and take it through Labor Day weekend the following year, 2024. So we could do Barron County and then Glasgow. But you all are Glasgow, okay? You're the fathers and mothers of Glasgow. So I want to know how you feel, and I'm going to report to our committee tomorrow. Because I think they decided that instead of having like a 4 or 5 day event where you have everything from the parade to the fashion shows to the historic tours to just endless ideas on things to do, that they wanted to spread it out and incorporate the city's car show in the fall, really nice and big, and then for like the Arts and Crafts Festival that's in September of each year on the square here. So I get home after, I thought, well, all that sounds good. And then after that meeting, I just thought, man, I'm just not sure that'll work. I just don't know, and I need your help. If you put up banners, which most communities you can look online, and when they celebrate a big birthday, they'll do banners for the whole year, because if you're going to buy a banner, you want it up the whole year. So do we put banners up in January of next year for Barron County, all across Barron County, and take them down in December, and then put up Glasgow's around the square, all in the city limits, in January of 2024, and leave them up all year? It's going to be really hard to divide it. So I wanted to get your thoughts so I can report to our committee. We want your blessings. Our finance committee, when we get it, when it's final, it's still in the works. will be coming to ask for funding to help, because it will take funding. But it's a big deal. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing for our children and grandchildren. I've helped with other committees in other counties around here, and they're wonderful, absolutely wonderful, when you see that many people descend on the town, and everybody does a little part, and you have little subcommittees, like you'll have a parade chairman, and you'll have a fashion show chairman, and you'll have maybe another time I could bring some. I noticed you had pictures on the wall, slides, is that it? I could maybe bring a disc, okay, and let you see some ideas. So that's why I'm here, just to get your thoughts on the date.
On your original group of 30, that's me right here. On your committee that's set up first, there are 30. Is that like a cross-section of county, city already? Is that representative already?
It is.
It is? Okay, good.
Oh, yes, we have one of your police officers that's been coming, and we've had Terry Bennell. Some of you have been contacted through your businesses. I know the mayor knows all about it, as far, I haven't kept him up to date on what we're trying to, the dates and everything. I just don't want any problems. This is a fun thing. We need your blessing. We need your help. And so yes, to answer your question, it's been across, actually most of the people have been from Glasgow.
It sounds like a very positive thing to me, to get all of us to get on board with that.
I want it to be. And if these subcommittees, if you leave them alone, let them do their job, they can make their own rules. Like the parade committee, they can make their own rules. They can set the day, the time, within reason. And same thing with the fashion shows and the beauty contest and the Miss Bicentennial. Just let each committee decide within themselves and just report to the big committee on what we're going to do. But how do you feel about, Glasgow separating Barron from one year and Glasgow for the next, or don't put up banners, or we don't even know if we're going to do banners. That's the committee's decision. We'd love to have all of you on the committee. I brought you a picture, and there's the next meeting. We would love to have you to represent the city. And a lot of you may not have known it. It's not been well advertised because we're just getting started. I'm doing some articles in the paper, and other than that, I've sent, the committee that we have now have sent out emails to their friends, their group, and have any of you heard of it before today? Have you? I know you have. Have y'all heard of it? Nothing?
Is this your number on the flyer if we
Yes.
wanted to get in touch with you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I wasn't going to take up much time. So if you have questions or stuff, you could just call me or text me. Would that work? You want me to give you a report after every meeting, send it to the mayor or something, to your secretary, send it to Mowing, to Mona? Okay. Thank you very much.
Just a little update to the council. That's what we approved to go into office. There's 4 to 5 town city outreach that sponsored the tax about Barron County and Glasgow to come out. Is it once a month? The newspaper that we're sponsoring, the facts.
It's every week. I'm the one
The City of Glasgow Resolution Number 2022-blank, a resolution approving the Drug Task Force Interlocal Cooperation Agreement by and between Barron County, Kentucky and Metcalfe County, Kentucky, City of Glasgow, Kentucky, and the City of Cave City, Kentucky. Be it hereby resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, that the City of Glasgow is a participant in the Barron River Drug Task Force and that the Interlocal Cooperation Agreement needs to be renewed by and between Barron County, Kentucky, known as the first part, Metcalfe County, Kentucky, known as the second part, City of Glasgow, Kentucky, known as the third part, and the City of Cave City, Kentucky, known as the fourth part. A specimen copy of which is attached hereto as Exhibit A, and incorporated herein by reference as if specifically set forth, shall be and hereby is approved in all respects, subject to the approval of all other participants, and subject further to the approval of the Department for Local Government pursuant to KRS 65.260. Be it further resolved that Mayor Harold Armstrong shall be and hereby is authorized and directed to execute the Interlocal Cooperation Agreement on behalf of the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, adopted this 25th day of July, 2022. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, attest Mona Simmons, City Clerk.
Having heard the resolution, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion by Manel.
A motion by Manel. And
Second, Lowry.
Second by Lowry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The resolution passes. The next item is Municipal Order 2022 on the order of the Mayor, Scott W. Owens, is hereby appointed to the Glasgow Airport Board.
City of Glasgow Municipal Order Number 2022-blank, on order of the Mayor, Scott W. Owens, is hereby appointed to the Glasgow Airport Board, fulfilling the unexpired seat of Odell Renfro, expiring August 1st, 2025. This appointment is subject to the approval of the Glasgow City Council this 25th day of July, 2022. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, attest Mona Simmons, City Clerk.
Having heard this municipal order, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion by Witcher.
Motion by Councilmember Witcher, second. Second by Councilmember Neal. All those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Municipal order passes. Next item is an item of new business, ordinance number 2022, an ordinance amending the Glasgow Ordinance 95.03, certain conditions declared as nuisance.
City of Glasgow Ordinance Number 2022, an ordinance amending Glasgow Ordinance Section 95.03, certain conditions declared a nuisance. Whereas the present Glasgow City Ordinance relating to the nuisances in Ordinance 95.03B does not address prolonged parking in yards, and whereas the present Glasgow City Ordinance relating to nuisances in Ordinance 95.03B does not address the use of upholstered furniture being used as lawn furniture or being placed outside, and whereas the present Glasgow City Ordinance relating to nuisances in Ordinance 95.03 subsection B subsection 4 does not address the control of weeds or plant growth from the owner's property line to the street. Now therefore, be it hereby ordained by the City of Glasgow as follows. Section number 1. A new subsection of Section 95.03B is being added as 95.03B subsection 12 as follows. Number 12, parking in yards. The parking or storage or allowing another to park or store a motor vehicle in the front, side, or rear yard of any property upon any surface other than an improved parking surface defined as concrete, asphalt, or gravel is prohibited. For the purposes of this section, motor vehicle is defined as a licensed means of motorized transportation for the movement of people and goods along public roadways, including but not limited to cars, trucks, vans, RVs, and motorcycles. Available driveway space must be available for each vehicle parked at the house. Section number 2A, a new subsection of Section 95.03B is being added as 95.03B subsection 13 as follows. 13, exterior use or storage of indoor furniture. The use or storage of furniture which is upholstered and not designed for outdoor use in an exposed area in which it is likely to decay, decompose, or retain moisture causing a health hazard is prohibited. Upholstered furniture must not be placed outside or used as lawn furniture. Section number 3. A new subsection of Section 95.03B is being added as 95.03B4 subsection C as follows. Subsection C. The property owner is responsible for mowing weeds or plant growth on their property, including easements and rights-of-way. Rights-of-way include the property line to the curb, or if no curb exists, from the property line to the street. Section number 4. That the Mayor of Glasgow is hereby authorized and directed to work with codes enforcement to effect this change. Section 5. This ordinance takes effect and will be enforced from and after its date of passage and publication as required by law. Any provisions not specifically altered herein remain as they appear in the current Glasgow City ordinances. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, attest Mona Simmons, City Clerk. First reading, July 25th, 2022.
Having heard the first reading of this ordinance, do I have a motion to accept? Motion, Norris. Have a motion by Councilmember Norris and a second by Councilmember Witcher. All those in favor?
I'd like to discuss this, please. Section 12, is this a safety issue of having vehicles parked in yards?
I'm not sure that you would call it a safety issue, except for when the property becomes muddy and stuff, people getting out of their cars and perhaps falling. As far as a general safety, no.
Well, I don't believe that the council should pass laws that infringe on individual rights. My next door neighbor, or the neighbor across the street, they park in their backyard. I can see it from my front door. I can't see if they're on asphalt or if they're on grass, and I don't care. I mean, that's their business. I know I saw some of your pictures you sent out, and some of them did have pathways worn out, but I believe that's an individual right. If you want to pass a nuisance law, I just soon pass a law that said no big Blue Devil signs and no orange teas are allowed in the city limits, because those are bigger nuisances to me than a car parked in the yard. So I don't like number 12 at all. And if you had your driveway resealed, you're going to park in the yard for 2 or 3 days, you're going to be violating the ordinance.
Temporary is fine.
So,
Would y'all like to see the pictures I brought?
no, I saw them.
Anybody? Okay.
I mean, if you don't have a lot of space, if you got 3 vehicles or 1 driveway, what do you do?
Put in some gravel.
But, I mean, everybody
Make it
can't
wider.
afford a load of gravel. I mean, right now, probably,
I would probably put the pictures up if you got them. I mean, I don't know if everybody's seen them.
Explain like where we would stop and talk to somebody. Yeah.
Much of this is already covered in city ordinances.
The only thing I could do with the city ordinance would be erosion, if they're causing erosion. Another one could be maybe if they're inoperable cars parked in the yard, I might could go that way. It's not very specific. I can say, well, this car doesn't operate, it's my property, I can park it on my yard. Well, then it becomes worn out, there's no grass, and it's muddy. Then you've got mud going along the road where they pull it out.
That ordinance goes on to say if it's unlicensed or not insured, it cannot be parked on the premises.
What types of calls are you receiving about vehicles parked in the yards? The number of complaints, what those look like in your office?
Just a few. There's some specific, in specific neighborhoods, but I just see them all over, and it would just help to be able to get it cleaned up, get things cleaned up. If you'll look at the pictures, see if I've got it going. Okay, this is one neighborhood. You see the truck on the side of the road there, or on the yard. That is not something that happens very often, or at least not yet. There's no marks. The grass is mowed under it. That's no problem. This one here, they improved part of it to put the camper and decided to park the truck there. Now the truck's got to come in and out, so now we've got all that mud there, ruts, and when it rains, they're going to drag the mud down the road. Here, this is nothing yet, but it'd be something that you would look at later to see if that was continuing and becoming a problem. The same there. This one here, it's not all that pretty, but it's got gravel on it, and there's no mud, and that works for me. This here, you see right behind the car on the right, you see that they are doing it. So after a rainy season or something, that might become a problem. This one here, both houses from the left and the right are doing it. You see at the bottom of the screen, there's ruts and mud. Of course, we don't have mud right now because we've not had that much rain. This here is great. They've decided that the concrete is not wide enough. They're going to add gravel and a little retaining there to keep it inside. This one, they've parked closer to the road until it's gotten too muddy, so now they're parking closer to the house. So that's going to be a big problem. This one here, the second to the left of the sidewalk there, looks like they started with some gravel. It may need a little bit more up towards the house, but that wasn't enough. Now they're driving and parking a third wide. I see that as an issue, and do you want to be living there next to them and your property values going down? Here's one where I go by and there's 2 or 3 usually in the yard, and you see where it's starting to wear away at the drive. That one's got a few issues. This one here, you can't tell that they've been doing it. It's probably a temporary thing. They've got gravel over there underneath the camper. This is just a temporary issue and probably will not be a problem later on. This one the same. These are not things that I would stop and say, hey, why are you parking on your yard or anything like that. I don't have enough time to do that. I'm just going to look at the ones that have mud and they're causing ruts and erosion. This one here, you can tell it's temporary. They've mowed the grass. It's sitting up there. There's no ruts. This one here may be an issue. You just have to watch it. This one here, he's already got the ruts in there. That's something he does all the time. So that's all that for right now. If you wanna...
My question on that, and I'm a rule follower, and I read this, and it would make me panic. It would make me think if I have a single driveway and my husband leaves for work early and I park over in the yard, you could possibly come by and give me a ticket. The language implies that if you park outside of your driveway, then you can be cited. But from what I hear you say, looking at those images, it's more of a matter of if you're creating an erosion issue
Yes.
in the yard. So is there a way for this to reflect that language? Because right now it just says that if the babysitter parks in the front yard so I can get out to go to work, you could come by and give me a ticket. And I know there's a lot of people, I think Happy said, who can't afford the gravel. And they're not causing an erosion issue, but they're gonna be upset to think that they can't park in their yard.
Here's a question, Cheryl. I mean, I've dealt, and I've had good relationship with you, and you've been fair with me, and I'm sure I've frustrated you. But how can we help you? That would be my first question. And then my second question, like what Chaz said, you know, I mean, I think everybody panics of, hey, if the kids are over swimming, you know, and I see the ones that are parked in the yard that you can tell the ones that are doing it every now and then and ones that's not. But then my other fear is if you tell the people who can't park there, well, they go park on the street. And then will we have a different problem? I don't know. But my first question would be, how can we help you? Because it looks like there's a few, maybe 20, if we went around. I know you ain't got time to fool with, you probably got, 20,000 lots, maybe, that you look at? Who knows? But, I mean, how can we help you as a city council and still keep the integrity of not wondering whether she parks over her so the babysitter can get in?
Well, like I said, I can discern between something that's happened, like you have a barbecue and you've got people parking in your yard, as opposed to, I'm going to park this car that doesn't run over here, and then I'm going to park the one that does run behind it and run in and out of it and make the erosion problem, the mud problem. You know, I can discern between those. I don't know, we would have to ask Mr. Basil if there's wording that can change.
Cheryl, doesn't this language that we have in this mirror language that's in a national code, and isn't this the same language that they use in places like Bowling Green and Louisville for this same subject? Isn't this a standard item that cities would have in their ordinances?
Yes, it is. I checked close cities that were larger than us, such as Bowling Green, and this is the way their ordinance is worded. It is.
Well, I still think it's an infringement on an individual rights, but let's go on to the last section about mowing from the property line to the street. I have a problem with telling someone to mow someone else's property, but I understand the need for it. At my house, I mow to the street. At my daughter's house, right at the street, there's a 3-foot drop-off to a culvert. I don't mow that every time because it's dangerous. You cannot mow it. You have to weed eat it, and it's so steep and deep that it hurts my back every time I weed eat it. So I weed eat it about every third time. But my question to you is, what are you going to do when a utility company comes through, trims a tree, and leaves the limbs in the ditch? Are you going to make that property owner mow that ditch with utilities, tree limbs? Now, that's happened to me.
I would call the utility and tell them come pick it up.
They won't come pick it up. I called them. I've had good luck and bad luck with this same utility. They've been very nice on occasions, and on other occasions, they've been stinker pots. And I'm sure other people have had the same experience, but they came through, I think it was after a storm, and they cut up some tree limbs, or a subcontractor did, and they left them laying in my ditch. And I called them, and they said, no, we're not going to pick them up. That's your responsibility. Well, that made me madder than you know what. And I sat and fumed about it for a while, and I eventually picked it up.
Yeah.
But I don't see it's right to make someone else pick up a utilities trash. I know there are other sections in town where they...
Were the trees yours?
Yes.
And so they did you a favor by trimming them?
No, they did not. They killed my trees.
Okay.
But they did me a favor by cutting them down after they killed them. So, in a way, they did me a favor. And then there's the problem of utility right-of-ways when they're just clearing out a right-of-way. They don't even haul the trees off. They just cut them down in a lot of cases. And I can take you places and show you that. I've tried to mow through one of those, and you can't. You can't even drive through one in a little four-wheeler. You can't do it. So I think if we're going to do this, we need to put something in there about, it has to be a safety issue, with an exception of a safety issue, you don't have to mow it. And then we need a subsection saying utility companies are responsible to clean up their trimmings if they do something. I mean, I don't, if a water company came in there and left a bunch of big rocks laying there, I'm not going to mow that either. So it's a safety issue.
Well, when I've seen like gas lines be put in, water lines have been put in, they come back and they smooth it out and they grow grass.
Well, I know the tree limbs laid there, so I don't like it. I'll vote no.
Well, here's some pictures of that. We got like they mowed the yard, they left the ditch and next to the road. Is the city supposed to come along and mow that?
It's a state highway, it looks like a
Yeah.
How deep is that ditch?
I don't know. I would think that you would have a lawnmower and a weed eater. Here's a road inside the city limits. This one, I believe the city does mow there at the bottom. The owner or somebody mows at the top, and they've just left this area. I don't know if they think it's the city's property, and the city thinks it's their property. I'm not really sure of that one. Here's they mow the yard and they leave the ditch. And I've had people say, oh, well, the street's busy, I can't get out there on the lawnmower. And I'm like, well, everybody else on the street mows it.
This may sound a little corny, but shouldn't we all go just a little bit farther and try to be a good neighbor?
Yeah, I feel like if it's in front of your house or your business, that you should mow it because it makes your place look good. I don't think we have the manpower to go up and down every neighborhood in the city to take care of this. These are things like that they just decided I'm not going to mow around the mailbox. It's over there by the street. I mean, they use the mailbox. It's on the right of way. There, they've mowed, but they're not going to mow out there by the street. Yes. They say that's the right of way. They don't have to mow it.
Sure, I guess the questions I have.
And I don't have an ordinance that will let me enforce it.
Sure, I guess the questions that I have about these two items we're discussing right now is the enforceability of it, the consistency of it, and the reliability of it. If you look at the drainage area and you say, Terry, yours is too tall, but to someone else, no, it looks okay, I don't know how we can be consistent in it.
We have a 8-inch on mowing,
Okay.
no higher than 8 inches.
But go further with me, but where my property line goes to, maybe there's a drop-off. Maybe there is the ditch with the rocks in it. Maybe it is difficult for that landowner. He or she might be where they can't take care of the property themselves. I just see that we're trying to put a burden on the citizens that we really can't enforce on a consistent, reliable basis, and it's left up to interpretation. You're going to drive by and you're going to have a thought on it. Hey, I'm parking in a yard, and you say, well, that's temporary. You go to someone else and say, no, that's permanent. And you're looking at the ruts in the yard. Well, I just don't see our code enforcement officers spending time doing that, and how are you going to apply that consistently across the community? I think there are more needs that we have out there that you should be spending your time with. There are plenty of buildings that we all can see, and we know the safety issues involved with those and the codes involved with those, but when it comes to these two items, I don't see how we want to address it as a council, that we're giving so much subjectivity to this process.
It's really hard to go somewhere and tell them to mow their grass and have all the ditches and everything look like that everywhere else.
I drive up and down streets in Glasgow, and maybe I've not been in the streets all that I don't go as many streets as you go, and I appreciate the job that you're doing 100%. But I haven't seen that to be an issue. You know, I really haven't seen that to be an issue. And I just think for those reasons.
Grass is one of my biggest issues.
And
I consider the upholstered furniture outside to be a safety hazard. I mean, what's going to be in the couch when you sit down on it? Spiders, mice, mold.
And I asked the city, I went to April, and I went back and I asked them earlier about what can be done from the city standpoint. They got to get rid of the grass growing in the ditches and on the sidewalks up to people's property. And sometimes it can be done, sometimes it doesn't get done. They might not have enough personnel to do it, and the cost may be more. In my neighborhood, there's a circle out there. The city knows. I know that circle. If I don't know, it don't. And it's nowhere near my problem. So, Freddie, when you're saying we can lean forward, but how far do I have to lean forward, to help my neighbors and help the community? So, again, I can't go.
Cheryl, is this, what?
This is body ready to vote.
No. Is this, I don't want you to specifically say, is this certain neighborhoods or is this everywhere that you see?
I see it in quite a different value of neighborhoods,
So that it isn't a certain neighborhood where we could possibly educate the homeowners in any of that, to where if they don't know how far the right-of-way is, so you're saying it's everywhere?
It's everywhere.
And Mary, you understand this. If we're in plot, and folks are renting your property from you, we hope that the renters will maintain the property and do everything they can and stuff. But the next thing you know, then there's 2 or 3 ordinance, and like I said, too. So, again, I don't know how we can enforce it.
Could I ask one of my board members to come up here and speak to you about them? About these ordinances? Is that all right? Yeah, Abby?
Appreciate it. My name is Abby Medford. I think most of you all know me, and I've been on the Code Enforcement Board for maybe like 2 years now. And so our job is to try to give Officer Pena the tools and resources that she needs to be able to effectively do her job to maintain the city and help maintain the city in a way that the city can be functional and attractive for all of us. And so just so you understand where she's coming from, and I understand everybody's concern on overreach, I do, but just so you understand where she's coming from, what she has available to her are existing city ordinances and the International Property Maintenance Code, which our city of Glasgow has adopted. As good as those things are, there are going to be gaps where things slide through. And so what she is doing, and the reason that we as a board ask her to identify some of the gaps, and then we as a board would look at increasing kind of the scope of the ordinances, these that are before you tonight is where she doesn't have an enforceability issue. So like the grass, for instance, we have the 8-inch rule, but the easements are a gray area. So at present, she can't enforce the ordinance that's already on the books because there's a vagary there. And so I don't think that the utilities, and Danny, you may know, I think the easement is the responsibility of the homeowner. I just think that's it. Like, we can't tag the utility for the easement because I believe the way that the laws are written is that it's the responsibility of the homeowner. In my estimation, based on the pictures that Ms. Pena showed tonight, it's more that people don't want to weed eat. I mean, let's just be honest. It's that people don't want to weed eat. So they do the bare minimum that they can do to not be tagged with the violation on the 8 inches, but then they leave the easements. So she's asking for an expansion of that existing ordinance to give her the ability to enforce. On the parking issue, I hear your concerns, but I would say it is a safety issue. When you've got cars parked in the front yard like that, all up and down the street, it potentially has become a safety issue because people backing in and out of driveways have obscured vision. It can obstruct the ingress and the egress to the roads. But more than anything, it is the erosion that she is talking about. And again, you have to understand that the job she's been vested with by the city is to help the city be as functional and attractive for all of us as it can be. Trust me when I say she does not have time to hang door hangers or write citations on things that are not, the way I look at it as a board member, she is asking for more specific language in these instances so that she can enforce it on persistent offenders, okay? I trust Cheryl's judgment. I trust her discernment. I don't know how many of you all have had the opportunity to work with her personally, but she is not asking for this so that the city can overstep their bounds. She has identified where there are gaps in what we already have available, what she has available to her. She has looked at similarly sized cities. She has looked at other ordinances, and she is attempting to close those gaps so that she can address the people who are persistently offending, who unfortunately don't have a lot of mutual respect for neighbors in some instances. They're not looking at what makes things attractive and functional for all of us, and the only thing that gets their attention is some type of punitive measure. And as much as I wish it wasn't that way, that's just the reality of what she's working with. I hear your concern, Joe, about the upholstered furniture, but that stuff just disintegrates. It just absolutely disintegrates, and it becomes an attraction issue, and it does become a pest and rodent issue. And so as much as we want to be compassionate and empathetic, we have to take the concerns of everybody into consideration. And when I lost her, like, as much as that person wants to have the couch sitting in their front yard that all the pleather's peeling off of it and it looks like a pile of junk, the person next door to them does not want the couch to be in the front yard with all the pleather peeling off of it and looking like junk. And so you have to kind of weigh that out. And again, she is just filling in the gaps, asking for a better opportunity to enforce what we already do have on the books, where there is some vague or ambiguous or open to interpretation wording. These are just areas of concern that have consistently come before her as code enforcement, that we are consistently hearing, that I'm consistently hearing complaints about as part of code enforcement. If we want our city to be the best that it can be, and we want it to be as functional and attractive as possible, and we want visitors to our city to have a positive impression of our city, we're sometimes going to have to do hard things. We're just sometimes going to have to do hard things, and sometimes that makes us not very popular in the moment. But I think if I can assure you of anything, it is that in my 2+ year experience with Cheryl, she is not asking for this more specific wording to be a strong arm type situation. She is asking for this expansion of this 95.03 to give her the ability to enforce the things that she knows are already causing problems. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from as a board member. We ask her, what can you do? She proactively has been talking to other cities and looking at their ordinances and seeing where they've filled in the gaps. And so that, I just thought that might help. I hear your concerns. They're valid concerns. I'm asking you to trust the board, to trust your code enforcement officer who's doing a bang-up job, that she's not doing this to carry a big stick. She's asking for more ability to enforce what we already have, to make our city as attractive as it can possibly be.
I see no reason to doubt her judgment, but I see no reason to infringe on people's individual rights.
And you're specifically talking about a lot of specifics. This is more of a general ability.
I don't think it's right to tell somebody they can't park in their yard. I mean, that's just, I don't get that. I don't think it's right to force somebody to mow property that's not theirs. Now, I think the common sense tells you, yes, I'm going to mow the 2 feet from my property line to the street. I mow it every time I mow. But if there's something dangerous, I'm not going to mow it. And
So how would you like Cheryl as the code enforcement officer to enforce when somebody's got 5 cars in their front yard at all times, and they work the system, and they know how to make excuses, and they tell her they're operable, and they might move them 3 feet, and then they put them right back when they've got a perfectly good driveway there? She does not at present have the ability to enforce anything that's available to her through the IPNC or the ordinance.
I don't think it should be anything done to that. That's an individual's right.
Even if it makes the city look unattractive and creates space.
Even if they paint their house pink and purple, they have that right.
The way it's written right now,
Okay. Kirkpatrick,
No.
Lowry. Neal. Norris,
Yes.
Trigg.
No.
Witcher. Benel.
No.
Gauntz. Honeycutt.
Welcome to come and
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we should come to y'all's meeting and talk through, because I don't want to put you in a bad spot, but I don't want to penalize the community over 20 people that are breaking the rule. Well, maybe it's 100 people, I don't know. But I don't want you to take the vote tonight as a slight against you. It's just, we've got to kind of manage through the community. But I would like to know whatever the date was, if somebody, okay.
You said second Thursday, so August 11th.
Cheryl, I just think the wording needs a little bit tweaked. That was my vote.
next item on the business is ordinance amending Glasgow zoning ordinance, rezoning property located approximately 300 feet south of Pebble Drive and Lexington Drive intersection, 460 feet from Robert Bishop Lane and Lexington Drive intersection.
City of Glasgow ordinance number 2022-blank, an ordinance amending Glasgow zoning ordinance, rezoning property located approximately 300 feet south of the Pebble Drive and Lexington Drive intersection and 460 feet north of the Robert Bishop and Lexington Drive intersection, containing 15.6 acres more or less, from R1 low-density residential district to R2 medium-density residential district. It appearing that K&M Services LLX owner applicant has requested a zoning change for the property located at 300 feet south of the Pebble Drive and Lexington Drive intersection and 460 feet north of the Robert Bishop and Lexington Drive intersection, containing 15.6 acres more or less. A schematic drawing of said property subject to rezoning is attached hereto as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. Number 2. A trial-type due process hearing concerning said proposed zoning change was held on June 20th, 2022 at 7 p.m. by the Joint City-County Planning and Zoning Commission, resulting in the recommendation by the Commission that the property hereinafter described be rezoned from R1 low-density residential district to R2 medium-density residential district classification. Attached to said zone change are the following binding elements to be enforced for the benefit of the neighborhood. A, all homes must be 1,800 square feet or larger. B, all properties must have paved driveways. C, all homes must be single-family residences. D, the subdivision must have curb and gutter streets. Number 3, copies of the findings and recommendations of the Joint City-County Planning and Zoning Commission have been forwarded to the Glasgow City Council, which are hereby adopted by the Glasgow City Council and are attached to this ordinance as Exhibit B and incorporated herein by reference. Now therefore be it ordained by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky as follows. Section 1. The findings and recommendations of the Joint City-County Planning and Zoning Commission, copies of which are attached hereto as Exhibit B, are hereby approved in all respects. Section 2. The property located at 300 feet south of Pebble Drive and Lexington Drive intersection and 460 feet north of the Robert Bishop and Lexington Drive intersection, containing 15.6 acres more or less, be rezoned from R1 low-density residential district to R2 medium-density residential district classification. The real property covered by this ordinance being more particularly described in Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference with the following binding elements. A, all homes must be 1,800 square feet or larger. B, all properties must have paved driveways. C, all homes must be single-family residences. D, The subdivision must have curb and gutter streets. Section 3, all future development of this property shall comply with the requirements of the Development Plan Ordinance adopted by the Glasgow City Council on December 30th, 1991. Section 4, the Mayor of Glasgow is empowered and directed to complete any documents on behalf of the City of Glasgow necessary to implement this action. Section 5, this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, attest Mona Simmons, City Clerk. First reading, July 25th, 2022.
Counts garages and all. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Have all of the specific objections been answered, especially those people that send us emails and have vocally objected? Have those all been settled and to their understanding?
It's my understanding that they have.
Have you talked to them personally, those 4 or 5 that?
No.
No.
No, sir. Nobody has reached out to my office after the hearing.
Kim, can you talk a little bit about the binding elements and how those work with the property?
Certainly. The binding elements that you have before you in the packet there, they're bound and have to be by state statute agreed upon by the applicant prior to that being approved as stipulations to be forwarded to you all. Those binding elements run with the land forever. That property is sold to another developer, and that property, that developer sells it to another developer. Those binding elements continue on. They're housed in our office. They're recorded in the clerk's office for public viewing if need be. So the binding elements that you have in front of you are bound to that property forever until that property changes zoning, and that applicant at that time asks for those binding elements to be removed. But the same due process must be given to the public, the same as a zone change hearing as well.
For our conversation on this before, we talked about the reason they did this change was so they could have
More lots. Yeah.
to put property on.
Certainly.
So I would say that the majority of folks that reached out to me on the phone, like to drive or help.
Sure.
Their concern was trying to get their property.
Certainly.
Because now there's a smaller block of land being authorized for their second concern. And I think you addressed most of their issues. Second concern was the duplex part.
Yeah.
That was a part in, what is it?
The R2. Yeah, the R2.
The R2, the option to have that, and that was occurring. So do you think these changes you made and everything, and every restriction are going to meet all of those?
Okay. Yeah, let me start right quick. First and foremost, I don't represent the applicant, nor do I represent the opponent in this. I am your staff. I'm the Planning Commission staff. Having said that, the two concerns that you asked about the duplex, the binding elements is clear. That's one of the Planning Commission's responsibilities, is to keep the integrity of the characteristics of the neighborhood that's existing there, while also understanding that there is prosperity, growth, smart growth that goes forward. One of the binding elements is single-family homes only. So even though the R2 classification allows for duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, the only thing that could be built on those properties is single-family dwellings, okay? Also, yes, the reason why they went from an R1 to an R2 is that in an R1, the minimum lot size is 12,000 square feet. In an R2, for a single-family house, it's 7,500 square feet. That does not mean that there's going to be a house on every individual lot. A person may buy 2 lots and put a house in the middle of that lot and combine those properties in a minor conveyance. That is certainly the case, and still put up the minimum 1,800 square foot house. One of the things that was asked about our commission was that this specific property was denied by the Planning Commission in May 16th meeting date. The reason why that was offered and that ruling took place was because the applicant wasn't present at the meeting date. Even though that they were notified by the state statutes required by certified mailing, they did not attend. Therefore, the Planning Commission could not ask them any questions. They cannot ask me questions because I don't represent them. I am their staff the same as I am your staff. So they denied it on the sole reasoning that there was no answers to be given. So the question of could you, as an applicant, accept the 1,800 square foot, the single-family residence only, the paved driveways, they were not there to give that approval. So they reapplied, repaid the fee, had us to reissue all of the certified mailings and put the signs on the property and all that to bring their data with them. I think you can see, and I'm not going to provide any new testimony because I can't, but I want you to see in the minutes, they did provide the data of property values. They went to the property value administrator's office, showed them the detailed drawings of their structures that they were planning on building, and got a proposed assessed value. While that value is roughly in the minutes there about $80,000 more than what Cardinal Court, which is adjacent to the north, is, it was about $15,000 to $20,000 less than what Pebble Drive is. Across the road in Lexington Avenue, or Lexington Drive, those houses were about $50,000 less than what the proposed property assessed from the PVA office would be. So as far as it saying that it would lower their property values, I'm not sure that that is valid, but that was in the minutes, and that's why the Planning Commission understood it to be, that it was, yes, maybe lower than just the property that's just in Pebble Drive. However, it was substantially higher than the other surrounding properties that's there. One of the other things, if you'll note in your minutes there, is Commission member Eddie Atnam asked how many lots would be adjacent to Pebble Drive, and that's roughly 15 lots. It's adjacent to Pebble Drive. In the proposed plat or survey that they showed, their render drawing showed 56 lots. Now, everything looks good on paper, and that's the way they laid it out. Paper's flat. When you get out there, obviously, it's the terrain gets a little bit hilly there. So they may not get an actual 56 lots just simply because of the terrain. They are proposing, if they do build the subdivision, they are proposing curb and gutter, sidewalks and street lights, if that's available to them, by the street department to tie into, hopefully, Lexington Drive having sidewalks at that point. Maybe that's a jumping point for that. But I'm just here to give you that oversight of those things, to provide you with that additional data. I can't give you any new testimony, but I know some of you were on Zoom and some of you attended the meetings. I thank you all for coming to that meeting in June. I do appreciate it. As far as following the state statutes, the Planning Commission followed the state statutes. The state statutes are, and you will see in the minutes that I, as the staff, had to say that it was not in compliance with the Comprehensive Plan's future land use map, and it is not. But the state statutes, Kentucky KRS 100 statutes, are very specific. If it's not in agreement with your adopted comprehensive plan, the burden is on the applicant then to provide two things. One, to provide data on why that person's proposed zoning classification is better than what we anticipated, and two, there have been changes of an economic, physical, or social standpoint in the neighborhood that was not anticipated. They brought that data, and you'll see in your minutes as well, with regards to the housing study that was done by Barron Inc., that shows that Barron County as a whole is about 3,500 to 3,800 homes below what we need to have right now. And also, they referenced the economic impact of Glendale, as well as the job release at Bowling Green with the 2,000 individuals. They showed in that Barron Inc. report by the Bowen Institute, there's roughly about 8,500 people that travel out of our county to work elsewhere. There's about 7,800 people that travel out of county to come to work here. So, they give that economic impact that's done here, the housing study that was done by our local government, and provided that data to the Planning Commission at that time in June. So the Planning Commission had at least an educated understanding of what they wanted to do out there. But it's the Planning Commission's sole responsibility for public safety, health, and welfare. And if that is met, then it's to look for how can we have smart growth that marries in these different types of uses on streets and in street networks in our community. So, is there any other questions that you all might have?
Of course, if it passes, it passes.
Sure.
There was another question that came up about if it failed tonight, that it might actually happen later.
No, and I think Mr. Bowser could probably speak to this as well. It's my understanding that if it fails and it's denied, then it's at your expense to hold the public hearing again, if the applicants so choose for that. You would have to go through the process of holding that public hearing and allowing them to speak and do the due process of all the individuals that's involved out there, adjacent properties and everything. Essentially what the Planning Commission did. We're your legislative arm. We hold those meetings for you so you don't have to hold them.
So,
We're providing you all the data that was there, obviously.
so it doesn't automatically happen a year from now, whether or not, whatever.
They have, I don't have that in front of me, but they only have X amount of days to have that appeal. That appeal does not go to circuit court. I do not think, I'm 99% certain it comes, you hold your own meeting. Correct. And it was stated in the minutes there by Charlie Goodman, our attorney, that the Planning Commission has a comprehensive plan that we're required by state law to do every 5 years. 2 years from now does not keep those individuals, if it's denied, to come to the Planning Commission and request that property be future land use to be a higher density property. And at that time, if it was approved and the future land use map called for that property to be a higher density residential property, there's no binding elements the Planning Commission can put on it. If it's in compliance, it's in compliance. And that's as far as it goes. So at this moment, there is some binding, some teeth, I guess you would say, in the matter. Meaning it could be multifamily, 4 places and all that, if it was on down the road. The binding elements now, though, restrict it to single-family usage only. Yes, if it's approved here. You're welcome.
City of Glasgow Resolution Number 2022-blank, a resolution of the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor to make application for and upon arrival to enter into an agreement with the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security, KOHS, for a no-match grant in the amount of $15,855 to execute any documents which are deemed necessary by KOHS to facilitate and administer the project and to act as the authorized correspondent for this project to be used for weapons for the Glasgow Police Department. Whereas the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, Barron County, Kentucky desires to make an application for Law Enforcement Protection Program funds for a project for weapons to be used by the Glasgow Police Department to be administered by Kentucky Office of Homeland Security. Said funds being a no-match grant in the amount of $15,855, and whereas it is recognized that an application for and approval of the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security funds impose certain obligations and responsibilities upon the City of Glasgow. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, Barron County, Kentucky, that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute and furnish all required documentation, including a memorandum of agreement, as may be required by KOHS for the furtherance of the above referenced project, and to act as the authorized correspondence for said project. So adopted this 25th day of July, 2022, Harold Armstrong, Mayor, at testimony Simmons, City Clerk.
Motion, Lowry.
I have a motion by Councilmember Lowry and a second by Councilmember Kirkpatrick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Resolution passes. The next item is a resolution authorizing the City of Glasgow, Kentucky to dispose of surplus equipment pursuant to the law that the Glasgow Public Works, Sanitation, Street, Landfill Departments have as surplus.
The City of Glasgow Resolution 2022-blank, a resolution authorizing the City of Glasgow, Kentucky to dispose of surplus equipment pursuant to law that the Glasgow Public Works, Sanitation, Street, and Landfill Departments have designated as surplus. Be it hereby resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky as follows. Number one, that the Glasgow Public Works Sanitation Department 4410 has a 1993 recycle truck, a 1992 garbage truck, and a pressure washer that have been designated as surplus and that needs to be disposed of. Number two, that the Glasgow Public Works Street Department has a 3310 has a 1989 flatbed dump truck, Ford, a 1993 John Deere UTV Gator, and a 1991 Ford Knuckle Boom truck that have been designated as surplus and that needs to be disposed of. Number three, that the Glasgow Public Works Landfill Department 4430 has a 1973 Dodge water truck that has been designated as surplus and that needs to be disposed of. Section 4. The surplus items in house ID numbers and VIN numbers are all listed on Attachment Exhibit A. Number 5. Per KRS 424-131B, that the items listed above will be sold by electronic auction following publication, including the URL for the auction site, and shall be disposed of pursuant to law. Be it further resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, that Harold Armstrong, Mayor of the City of Glasgow, shall be and hereby is authorized and directed to execute any and all documents necessary to complete the disposal of these items pursuant to law. So adopted this 25th day of July, 2022. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, attest Mona Simmons, City Clerk.
Having heard this resolution, do I have a motion to accept?
Second by Vanel.
Have a council member Kirkpatrick and a second by council member Vanel. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
One more item. Councilman Goins, did you say it was Dr. Phil Whiteside? Well, I hadn't heard about it, so could I ask everybody to have a moment of silent prayer for the family of and all the acquaintance of Dr. Phil Whiteside, please? Thank you. Now, as announcements, having no other business, the announcements, our next scheduled council meeting is Monday, August the 8th, 2022, 7 p.m. here at the City Council Chambers. Is there any other announcements from any other councilman? Have a motion by Councilman Kirkpatrick and a second by Councilman Neal. You are adjourned. Thank all of you for your attention and your participation in this meeting. You're going to talk about those scale machines with KLC? I think